And welcome everyone to Beyond the Forecast. I am Chief Meteorologist Michael Stevens, and it's July 1st, and it is a sunny, beautiful July 1st. Temperatures in the 70s, low 80s, really nice conditions to get out and enjoy. So, with that being said, let's talk about some things that pertain to being outside. First up, meteorologist John Gross is going to take you into swim risk, what it is, what it means, and what you need to be on the lookout if you want to go out and swim across areas, Michigan or just in general. Look at that swim risk. What does it mean to you? And then I will have an in-depth look at greenhouse gases. What are they? What do they mean? And how they impact us and also the entire world. Break that all down for you. And then meteorologist Haley Fischetti and I will sit down and show you a new segment of our Beyond the Forecast live streaming podcast that we shot this morning. So we'll have all that coming up in today's show. But before that, let's talk about some fun things when it comes to this day in weather history. First up, June 1st, 1911. This day in weather history, this is a wild one. The high in Phoenix, Arizona was 79 degrees. Everybody in northern Michigan right now says, that's comfortable. Well, in Phoenix, Arizona, the daytime average for July 1st is 105 degrees. They had a high of 79 degrees July 1st, 1911, which was the coldest daily high for the month of July. Holy buckets, Charlie Brown, that is chilly for that spot. So, here in northern Michigan, believe it or not, the daytime average high is 79 degrees for this time of year. Arizona hit 79, and they were about 26 degrees away from where they should have been. Pretty wild. All right, trivia time. Yesterday, we wanted to know, what is the calm part of the hurricane with low winds and clear skies called? Is it center, the eye, the end, or calm and clear? Well, as much as I want it to be the end, it's the eye. B. So yeah, that is the eye of the hurricane. That's high pressure. That's where the air is sinking. And we showed you this last week when we cross-sectioned a hurricane. That's that drier, more stable air, and that's where the eye is. And usually, when there's hurricanes on the map, you can see little what looks like debris inside the eye of a hurricane if it develops real nicely. That's actually like birds and animals and things that are taking flight and shelter inside the eye of the hurricane so they can then leave once the hurricane starts to dissipate. Today, we want to know, when did the Dust Bowl occur? I was kidding. When did the Dust Bowl occur? Was it 1910s, 1950s, 1930s, or the 2000s? QR code right there. Hit it with your phone, take you to where you can answer, and then tomorrow we will give you the answer. Weather word of the day. Sorry, the wind is taking my hair, blowing it forward. Wind's out of the northwest today, right to you, and it's blowing my hair. Weather word of the day. Today, the word is isotherm. Isotherm is a line on a weather map showing locations and temperature. So when you look at a map and you see the lines, like this is kind of more meteorology map, but you draw those lines, then it actually puts those temperatures together. So that's where you can see where temperatures are the same. But it makes sense. We can break it down. Isos means equal, and therm means heat. So there you go. Isotherm. Lines on a weather map that connect the liquid temperatures. Viewer photo of the day. Brought to us, as always, by Great Rooms. Today's picture comes to us from Kathy Gunning, who sent in this amazing picture of the sunset and moonrise at Wilderness State Park. That's an amazing photo. Thank you so much, Kathy, for sending that in. And as always, thank you to Great Rooms for sponsoring Viewer Photo of the Day. All right, let's get into the show, shall we? Coming up, we're going to send it over to meteorologist John Gross, who's going to break down swim risk. What the signs are, what you need to look out for, and if you're planning on going swimming, just be heads up. We'll have all those details right after the break.
Hey there, everybody. Meteorologist John Gross. Welcome back to Beyond the Forecast. We are now into the summer season here into northern Michigan, and we are talking about that urge to get outside, enjoy pure Michigan summer at the beach or at the lake, whatever it might be. And as you should, enjoy yourself, especially these few months that we get. But when you're talking about a beach day, when you're talking about a lake day, maybe you want to get out on the water, take out the boat, take out the paddleboard, take out the jet ski, take out the kayak, whatever it might be. You want to make sure that the conditions in the water are safe to do so. Are you talking about low waves? Are you talking about higher waves? Are you talking about the chance for currents that can be dangerous? Are you talking about even the chance for rip currents? Great tool to check in with before you go to your next beach day or lake day. We're talking about the swim risk. Now, this is all part of what we call the surf zone forecasts. These are issued directly from the National Weather Service, so you can go right on their website and you can check in county by county based off of where you're planning to head off to the lake or even head off to the beach. So these are the three main categories we talk about: the high, the moderate, and the low. And these are how they're color coordinated. The high is the red, the moderate is the yellow, and the low is the white. Now, obviously, we want to aim for the low risk. That's going to be your best case scenario to enjoy your beach day, to enjoy your lake day. But there are conditions in some days where you're talking about the moderate or even the high swim risk. And when you're talking about the high swim risk, even if you are a very experienced swimmer, just a great idea to not put yourself in that type of situation. Because when you're talking about the high swim risk, usually we're talking about waves very, very high. Those can tackle 4 feet, 6 feet plus. And that can be wave after wave after wave. So it's not going to be a good place that you want to be. Strong currents are also expected. Those can even turn into what we call rip currents. And that current moves away from the lake shore. Not a place that you want to be. So high swim risk day, just not a good idea to be in the water. Now, the moderate swim risk day, that can go either way. Now, we don't encourage people to be in the water during a moderate swim risk day unless you are a very experienced swimmer. You know what to do if you happen to find yourself in a situation like a rip current to keep yourself safe, or at least get yourself back to shore. So that's what we say for moderate swim risk days. Again, we want the low swim risk because larger waves, dangerous currents, they're not expected. But another note is this little yellow box right here. A low risk does not equal no risk. There's always a risk. When you're talking about water, currents sometimes, well, they can be unpredictable. So you want to make sure that you're always paying attention to the surf zone forecasts. And when you're talking about the rip currents, breaking this down even a little bit more with your low risk, moderate, and the high, these kind of speak for themselves, but obviously we want the low. When you're talking about the low risk, rip current risk, well, it's low. It's never zero, but it's low. So that's going to be your safest bet to get into the water. Moderate risk, life-threatening rip currents, they're possible. Doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but they're possible. So we would only encourage very strong swimmers at that point to get into the water. If you're in that high risk, life-threatening rip currents are lightly, and it's just not worth it. Not going to be a day to where you want to be in the water. And when you're at the water, when you're enjoying the beach, when you're enjoying the lake, you also want to take care of yourself, and that includes your skin. You don't want to end up like our friend here who's not having a good time and didn't put his sunscreen on. So using an SPF 30 or higher is always a good bet about a half hour or so before you do head outside, especially if you're going to be spending a long period of time outdoors in the direct sunlight. And it's always a good idea to reapply if you're going to be outside for a long period of time. General rule of thumb, every 2 hours after swimming. If you're sweating, maybe doing any outdoor activities outside and it's a very hot day, or just toweling off, always a good idea. And then just another good tip when we're talking about the very hot conditions, spending time in the shade, wearing light-colored, loose-fitting clothing, even after you might spend some time out in the water, that can just help to protect your skin from getting a sunburn. I'm meteorologist John Gross reporting for Beyond the Forecast.
Thanks, John. Now, coming up next, I'm going to break down greenhouse gases. What are they? What do they do? And why are they so important to the atmosphere? We'll have those coming up right after break. And welcome, everyone, back to Beyond the Forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Michael Stevens, and today we're going to be talking about greenhouse gases. Seeing a lot of sunshine, air is getting warmer for us, and you might hear a lot of people talk about greenhouse gases. But do you actually know how the concept works or what they are? Well, let's break that down for you. And it's a really great name for these because the Earth acts as like a giant greenhouse. right? A greenhouse, the sunlight passes through the greenhouse and it traps in that warmer air, right? So that's kind of what the Earth does. Is last week we told you about the atmosphere, the different layers of the atmosphere, and how the sun rays get blocked out, or the harmful rays get blocked out, and all that comes in, but it also has to reflect out, or does it? It's like a greenhouse. So all of that warmer air and those sun rays come through the layers of the atmosphere, and then as they get to the surface, all of that has to reflect back, but it doesn't escape. So when you talk about it, some energy remains inside of that greenhouse and it raises the temperature, just like it does here on Earth, hence a greenhouse. So the Earth's atmosphere acts like that greenhouse, like we were telling you about when we talk about those 5 different layers of the atmosphere. So the sun heats Earth's surface during the day, right? And we've talked about this when it comes to radiational cooling. So as the sun heats the surface of the Earth at night, radiational cooling, it tries to escape. But as it tries to escape, it gets stuck in the atmosphere. Like a greenhouse, it stays warmer. So the surface heat is released at night, radiational cooling. Some is retained by the atmosphere. When in balance, this keeps Earth's thermostat in check. This is a way that Earth regulates the temperature. So there's 3 major gases in the Earth's atmosphere that help retain heat like a greenhouse. There's carbon dioxide, CO2. And then you have methane, H4C, and then water vapor, OH2, H2O. So that water vapor, as well as methane and carbon dioxide, are the reasons that we see that heat not escaping the atmosphere. So the greenhouse effect, which is the greenhouse gases regulate the temperature within the atmosphere. So just like, imagine, again, going back to that first graphic where you have the greenhouse, right? So as the sun warms up the greenhouse, the temperatures start to rise. Now, as the sun goes away, that warm air tries to escape. But what you have inside the greenhouse keeps that heat in there. Now, think about it on a bigger scale, like Earth. More greenhouse gases can increase the atmospheric temperature. So if you have it here on Earth, billions of years of heating, vegetation, and then billions of nights, warm air tries to escape, and it gets lodged in the atmosphere. Now, let's start adding in mankind and the industrial age and things that we are putting into the atmosphere on a daily basis. We are adding to those greenhouse gases, which is making the atmosphere warmer. So that is the issue with greenhouse gases. And a lot of people are like, well, we don't make that much of an impact. We make a huge impact on the atmosphere. Now, how long have we been driving cars? Almost 100 years? How long have we been building things with factories? Even longer? So all of that goes up into the atmosphere. And yes, there are ways that the atmosphere regulates it and sifts some out, but when you continue to do it day in, day out for hundreds of years, you start getting differences in the atmosphere. So here's the gas emissions by economic section in 2020. So let's take a look at everything around the world, economy-based, and look at how much greenhouse gas is emitted into the atmosphere. So the electric power, 25%. Transportation, 27%. Cars, buses. Industry, 24%. It's actually the third lowest, which actually I thought it would be much higher than that. Commercial and residential, 13%. Agriculture, 11%. But it's transportation. Think about it. There's 6 billion people in the world? How many drive vehicles on a daily basis? Or ride buses on a daily basis? Now, the Canada greenhouse gas emissions in 2020, look at it differently than what it is for other spots. The energy or stationary combustion sources, 45%. Energy transport, 7.5. Agriculture, 8.2. Industrial processes and product use, 7.5. Energy fugitive sources, 7.4. And waste at 4%. So a little bit different when it goes to different countries and different rules. That's why when you hear in the news about the limits that we want to put into the atmosphere, it's not because we're trying to be meanies. It's because the less you emit in the atmosphere, the better regulations you get from the atmosphere. It's regulating the temperature. But if you just Well, willy-nilly, put everything in the atmosphere, you're going to have worse conditions. Just like this greenhouse, right? The sunlight passes into the greenhouse. Temperatures rise. Sun goes away, nighttime, some of that heat tries to escape. But on nice days, you do open that air so things can move around in the greenhouse. But imagine if you just left the greenhouse this way and just let it heat up all the time. You're going to have some issues with your plants or whatever's inside the greenhouse. Just like here on Earth. When we're heating up the atmosphere and can't get rid of the things in the atmosphere and we're just adding to it, we're going to have some issues. And that's what we're trying to correct and avoid. So those are greenhouse gases for you. Kind of the science and also the weather behind it. Because once the atmosphere gets a little bit wonkier, we tend to get the wonkier weather. Yes, it's not a scientific term, but that is why really over the last 20 years, we've been starting to see the swing of extremes. The atmosphere is reacting differently to the temperature rising because it is scientifically proven much warmer than it was just 20 years ago. So there you go. We'll be right back with more Beyond the Forecast. And welcome back, everyone, to Beyond the Forecast. Meteorologist Haley Fischetti and I sat down this morning, 10 a.m. We had our weekly live streaming Beyond the Forecast podcast. And we were talking about July 1st. It's summer. But we posed the question, do you want 100 degrees of dry heat, or do you want 100 degrees, like where the humidity is making it feel like 100 degrees? So say it's like 87 and the dew point is making it feel like 100. Do you want northern Michigan heat, or do you want Arizona heat? And to be fair, like it came out pretty even. But there are people that just don't like the dry heat. I'm one of them. And then there are people that like this heat because we can find ways to cool off. We break it down a little bit more. But yeah, we talked about the summer heat. Check it out. Like this is almost too warm for me. But
Really?
yeah. I mean, it's 70. So yeah, we're getting close. 75 and above is a no-go for me.
See, I'm like, I don't really care about temperature. I'm humidity. Like, I could handle an 88-degree dry day.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't bother me.
We were talking about this yesterday, me and my cousin. So my cousin Jake lives in Traverse City, grew up in Michigan. We were playing video games yesterday and we were talking about it. Another guy that I play video games with is from Mississippi.
Okay,
And he's always complaining about the heat and humidity.
fair enough.
And he went to Florida this week to move his sister back to Mississippi.
Even more.
And I was like, if there's something worse than Mississippi in the summer, it's Florida. In the summer.
Yeah.
And we were talking and got into northern Michigan. And I was like, but even on our worst day, we're not Mississippi or Florida with humidity.
No, we're not.
You know, but if it was like 100 degrees and humid, like it's a terrible day.
Yeah.
And then we were like, but still, Arizona has it worse.
You think?
115, feels like 115. Even when the wind's blowing, it's nighttime, there's no relief.
Yeah, I think
There's no
it's the relief.
The one
part.
time I've ever experienced that heat, I went over to Vegas and it was 115 degrees. And I was like, there's got to be a breeze. The breeze is blowing, but it's like
It's hot air.
It's a dry hair dryer.
It's kind of what we had a couple weeks ago when we had like the 390s in a row.
Yeah, that was a warm wind.
When it was just like a warm wind, you would step outside and you'd think it'd feel nice. And even on the lakes, you were like, this is warm.
Yes.
This isn't nice.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, with no relief at night, I think that'd be a terrible situation.
So let's pose that question to you.
Yeah.
Would you rather have heat and humidity or warmth and humidity makes it feel like triple digits, or do you want the dry heat where there's no relief? What do you prefer when it comes to summer heat? Yeah. Heat and humidity or dry heat?
Yeah.
And you can catch the live streaming Beyond the Forecast podcast every Tuesday at 10 a.m. with meteorologist Haley Fischetti and I as we talk about certain topics. Sometimes, like today, we just came out here on the deck and chatted. And it took us to where we wanted to go, really. Talked about how spring was really nice for our plants. We also talked about how we actually haven't seen a whole lot of bugs this year. Interesting. Don't know if it's weather related, but sure it is in some fashion. But you can catch that on the 910 News Facebook page as well as the 910 News YouTube channel every week, every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Or you can also stream it wherever you get your podcasts. We're working on that still. We're getting But thank you, everyone, so much for joining us for Beyond the Forecast today. For meteorologist John Gross, meteorologist David Jetty, I'm Chief Meteorologist Michael Stevens. Be good, stay safe, take care, have a wonderful rest of your holiday week. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye, everybody.